Hi everyone, we've a load of new games in Blanchardstown Library right now. Click in the link in the description if you want to see the full catalogue of Switch games. Today I'm going to have a look at a couple of our games for grown-ups. Starting with Saints Row 4, Re-Elected. I first played this game a few years ago on the PlayStation 3 and it's transferred very well to the Switch. It's been remastered, and even though the original game was released in 2013, it's aged very well and still feels current. The old Saints Row games were inspired by Grand Theft Auto. You rose from the streets as a gang leader engaging in turf wars. This time around the stakes are higher. Ridiculously higher. In the prologue, you save the world from nuclear terrorism and do some Deadpool style fourth wall breaking. Hailed as a hero, you're elected president of the United States and cure world hunger. Then the aliens arrive and things get very silly very quickly. As action games go, it's a memorable introduction. Saints Row 4 is silly, fun, rude and violent. It ticks all the boxes for adult gaming. Some other remastered games that I've played recently have felt stale and past their sell-by date, but the zany anarchic humour and the variety of gameplay have kept Saints Row fresh. The game it most reminds me of is Astral Chain, with its fast-paced action story and ever-changing scenes, but Saints Row definitely has a feel of its own. It's hard to decide if it's the product of a twisted mind or a supreme team of developers. It could be a little bit of both. This is an 18 rated game, so you'll need an adult library account to reserve it. Another 18s game and another remastered series here with the Bioshock collection. This package has Bioshock 1 and 2 as well as Bioshock Infinite. I hadn't played any of these before in their original incarnation, so I came into them as a total newbie. I started with Bioshock 1 and was pleasantly surprised. It's hard to believe that this came out 14 years ago. It's still fun and atmospheric, which speaks volumes about the quality of the original game and the work that's gone into the remastering. It's basically a first-person shooter with a body horror twist. Your character can use special abilities gained by injecting different serums that you find on your travels. I enjoyed this much more than the recent reboot of Doom, which although we have it in our collection, I can't bring myself to recommend. Bioshock 2 isn't the kind of game you play to wind down after a hard day, unless you find drug-crazed goons hanging around every corner relaxing, in which case you're in for a treat. They're dystopian nightmares set in an immersive and highly atmospheric environment. Everything from the early 20th century gramophone records used for source music, the oppressive sound effects, claustrophobic layout of Rapture is designed to ramp up the intensity and the general sense of unease that permeates the whole series. There's a vein of sadness and loss throughout all the Bioshock games. They're heavy on story, but the exposition mostly happens through audio logs that you find on your journey. So you'll find yourself listening to someone complaining about their lazy spouse or pining for a lost loved one, while hopped up post-human aggressors are clawing at your face. It's definitely not a game for the faint-hearted. The moment I started up Bioshock Infinite, I was glad I'd left it to last. While the rest of the series is enjoyable and creepily atmospheric, Infinite is on another level entirely. Had I started with this chapter, the others would have seemed tame by comparison. Bioshock's dystopian eye turns to the American dream in this iteration. It seems remarkably prescient given that it was released in 2013. The storytelling is incredible, but sadly the quality of the gameplay suffers. It's symptomatic of games of that era that the production value and world building are prioritised over the fundamental principle of creating a game that's actually fun to play. That aside, Bioshock Collection is well worth playing. The first two games are definitive versions of what you can do with a first-person shooter, and even Bioshock Infinite is worth a look for its lush visuals and overall concept, even if the execution is poor. That's all from me for now. Check the library catalogue for more games at the link below, and leave a comment if there's any games you'd like to see covered, or if you want some game recommendations, tips or advice.